Hi everyone, my name is Julie, this is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee, and it's time for the stats video! Welcome to the stats video of 2023. If you want to see me again, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. You can always like and comment and subscribe and hang around for some more fun bookish content. But today we're going to be talking about all the fun stats that have to do with 2023. So let's jump into it. These stats are going to be coming from a combo of both Storygraph, where I track my books primarily, as well as my spreadsheet, which is where I also enter all the information. So I use Allie from Hardback Quarters reading spreadsheet, and I will have her link down below so that you can check out that if you're interested. She has an Etsy shop where you can purchase the spreadsheet, as well as a video on YouTube explaining it. So I will have those linked down below if you want to check them out. I highly suggest them. She has a 2024 update, which has some really cool new features, and I am excited to be entering all of my stats in there. At the end of the day, I read 101 books and I DNF'd 24 in 2023. So this is a little bit lower than what I read in 2022. In 2022, I read 150 books. Now I don't know how many I DNF'd, but it's not as many as I did this year because I've definitely been making a bigger effort to DNF books and give up on books if I'm not enjoying them. Life is too short. I want to read the books I really enjoy. So I've really been working on that. Now I also, even with 101 and 24 added together, that's only 125. Where are those other 25 books? Did I do something else this year? And if you heard me talk at all, you probably heard that I had a big fan fiction phase earlier in the year. So after doing some math, I figured out I read about 40 400-page books worth of fanfic in 2023. So I read a lot that was published, and I read a lot that was published online. So this is just an interesting stat to me. It's fascinating because I kept a separate spreadsheet and kept my fanfic tracked in there, and just the sheer amount that I read this year is impressive to me. And it was great. I had a great time, but it just really explains where my numbers went in 2023. Anyway, I read 18,683 pages of physical books or ebooks with my eyeballs, and I listened to 599.3 hours of audiobook. And I am surprised by this. I knew the divide was a lot, but I listened to so many more audiobooks than I did physical books this year. It was just huge. And I had set my 2024 goal at 600 hours, but then I ended up at 599 because I listened to a lot of audiobooks in December. So I'm probably going to be adjusting that a bit once we hit the 6 months mark or so, but we'll see what happens. But I imagine that I will only increase the number of audiobooks that I read going forward. I also have the numbers to back up that divide by saying that I listened to 66 audiobooks while I only read 14 ebooks and read 29 physical books. So my physical books were half of my audiobooks in 2023. And then I have 4 listed as mixture, which I consider like immersion reading, like listening to the book and reading it at the same time. And I think there's actually a few more than that. Like I probably should have put a few more in that category, but I usually picked like the predominant one. But often I go and I read along with the book, especially at the end, or I'll like have a physical version and I'll read some of it while I'm before or after I'm listening. You know, I like if I have a different desire to read it, or I flip through it, and you know, so I think a few more should have been in that mixture category, but overall predominantly predominantly audiobooks in 2023. Then the intended audience for my reading this year is predominantly adult. I really didn't expect it to be this big of a jump. This has definitely been a trend in my reading these past few years to go much more heavily adult, but to read 88 adult books versus 3 middle grade, 3 new adult, and 19 YA is just wild to me. I didn't read any children's, which doesn't really surprise me, but like middle grade only being 3 and 19 YA really does. Like 88 adult, that's 77.9% adult books, and I'm not mad about it. I just am surprised. Now, my ratings chart this year is pretty interesting because I have a very large number of 5 stars, which is at 36. So if you see this pie chart, I have 36 5 stars, which is 32%, which is pretty high. Like normally I do have more of a bell curve to this. And I think that's primarily because I read a lot of Ailana Andrews this year, which are my favorite. Like, Ilana Andrews is one of my favorite authors. I reread a lot of their books this year. I did buddy reads for books that I was certainly enjoying, and then like just kept going through that series that I was enjoying. I also kept up one of my favorite series this year. So there were a lot of contributors to the fact that there is a lot of 5 stars on this list year. And I am not mad about it. I really enjoyed those books, but it is sort of unusual because I read so many good things this year. And I'm really happy about that. But a lot of them were sort of predetermined 5 stars just because I knew I was going to love the stuff going in a way that I don't with stuff. Even if you think the description is great, when you're reading a series and you're reading the next in a favorite series, you're almost guaranteed to love it. And just sometimes that really impacted, or not sometimes, this year it really impacted how many 5 stars I had. So I'm thrilled I had such a great reading year, but it's a little unusual. I also think the number of books that I DNF'd was higher, so those lower ratings didn't get included as much. Like, I only have 1 star, 2 stars, 3 2.5 stars, and 16 3 stars. So things that I wasn't enjoying, I definitely DNF'd or unhauled or whatever. So I definitely was swinging more towards the higher numbers because I wasn't taking the time to read those books that were going to be mediocre or bad. Allie also includes a cover color chart in her stats, and I just find this really interesting, so I'm just going to show it to you. The color that had the most representation was 25, was blue, and I'm thrilled about that. I just love the variety in this chart. It looks so cool. But I don't have anything more to say about this. This is just a fun graph to look at. Then as far as series go, I started 16 and I finished 10, which I am really happy about. I think that's great. I'm excited that I started so many, but also that I eliminated so many. Like, finishing off series is definitely a big goal of mine, and I'm happy to know that in the end I finished the same number that is my goal to finish next year. I read 9 companion novels. 74 of the 101 books that I finished were part of a series in some way. 26 were standalones, and I just think that's pretty typical for me because I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi and magic books and stuff like that. Even companions with romance series, those are companions, so that's not surprising to me that that number is so high. So those stats were all about my books read. I also want to talk a little bit about my books purchased. Last year I did a whole video on the amount of money I spent on books and everything like that, and this year I kind of just want to include it in this video and make it all one. So in 2023, I purchased 70 books, which is less than last year. I keep saying last year, but in 2022, I think I purchased 85, so that's down a little bit. And I'm taking 37 books into 2024. So out of the 70, I am taking 37 of those into 2024 unread. So according to my math, which hopefully is better than my math in one of my recent videos, I spent $1,078.16 on physical books. Now this includes everything from my purchases in my physical bookstore, as well as Illumicrate subscriptions, stuff like that. It doesn't include the subscriptions like Audible or Scribd or Libro.fm or any of those things. In 2023, I spent $231.97 on those subscriptions as well. And other independent purchases of audiobooks, I spent $43.25. So I paid a lot for books in 2023. Now, I'm not shaming anyone. I'm not shaming myself even, really. I would like this to be a little bit lower next year because I am going to be trying to purchase less books. I'm also going to be trying to go for more of a no buy, low buy year. So this is going to be smaller next year, but I am not upset with this number because books are my primary hobby. This is what I spend my money on, and this is a collecting thing for me, as well as like, this isn't something that's impacting my ability to pay my bills or anything like that. Like, I am very lucky in that I can spend this on books. However, I am also, I'm sort of falling into the habit of purchasing books as sort of a coping mechanism or I feel like I'm buying books and I'm not excited about them. So I'm trying to curb my buying a bit, so I'm buying books that I'm really excited for, but maybe buying books that I've already read and loved. So I'm hoping to just change my spending habits around books a little bit next year. However, I also talked in my video last year about the books that I sold. So I sell books on Pango. It's always linked down below in the description if you're interested. But I sold a total of 55 books in 2023, and that came out to $297.74. So I think that's about half of what I sold in 2022, and that is just because I have been posting less books. Like, I have less books to sell. I had a huge collection of things that I had put aside for years that I wanted to unhaul and sell, and I had put those up on Pango just immediately when it started to sell those, and those went out the door rather quickly, and I made a good chunk of change on there. But this year was a little bit slower and I had less books to sell overall, so that's part of the reason. I have more books to post now. I'm always posting books, but it's in 2 and 3s rather than 10s and 12s. So but constantly unhauling and buying books around here. What I'd like to do is more curate my collection. So that's one of my like focuses for 2024. But those are my stats for 2023 about my books read and books purchased and sold. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about the books that I talked about or any of the stats that I talked about down below, please let me know. You can also like and subscribe down there. They all help my channel out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.